Cardinal George Pell spent roughly 400 days in prison charged with sexual assault. He was later acquitted and is now back in Rome. EWTN News Rome correspondent Colin Flynn had the opportunity to sit down and speak one-on-one with the Cardinal.
Well, I suppose it was part of my the reassertion of my innocence, and also I was keen to see and thank the Holy Father for his support. And I've got many friends in Rome. One of the interesting things in Rome was that even my ideological enemies didn't believe that I was guilty. Now, one reason for that was because they knew what a cathedral is like after a big mass on Sunday. In a cathedral on Sunday, there are hundreds at the big mass, 50 in the choir, 15 servers, half a dozen people in the sacristy, plus the visitors. The suggestion that I would have attacked two youngsters I didn't know, nobody said I knew them, in such circumstances is doubly implausible.
What is that like, to be accused and convicted of sexual abuse like that?
It's not pleasant, which goes without saying. It means that you have to go back to basics. You have to, well, one of the things I've been saying since I've come out is that if we're ever in difficulties, the first thing is we have to admit to ourselves where we are, not where we would like to be, not losing ourselves in laments about what has happened, but say, well, here we are, what can we make of this? And my faith was a great help, because one of the great differences between us and people without religion is that we believe in some mysterious way our suffering can be turned to good. And it also helps to realise that ultimately there's one judgment that's supremely important, and that's before the good God when you die.
Did you always believe that you would be vindicated, or did you believe at times when you were in prison that you would have to wait until that, as you say, ultimate judgment to get justice?
Well, I was very shaken by the decision of the Victorian Supreme Court, where two judges found against me. I couldn't believe it.
So at times were you thinking, I might have to see this through for the 6 years?
Yes, I was. And of course, and then even after that, when I more rationally, and all my friends said, you've got to appeal, and I recognise it, also for the sake of the church. But I also realised, rationally, I knew we had an overwhelmingly strong case.
I have to be very careful how I phrase this next question and how I put it, but let me ask you about the link that some people have been drawing or speculating about between the work you were doing, overseeing the finances of the Vatican, the restructuring, and the opposition you were coming up against in doing your work. A link between that and then the accusations that suddenly appeared in Australia, you having to leave your job here and going to face them. Your opinion on that theory?
Well, there's a lot of smoke. A lot of the people who were working for serious reform here believed there was a connection. Amongst my supporters in Australia, almost nobody believed that there was a connection. We now know that quite a number of the criminal elements around the place hoped that I would come to grief in Australia. There's even suggestion, someone say, well, Pell's out of the way, the road is opening before us. We don't have proof. We don't have proof. But we'll see.
As you said before, time will tell.
Well, we hope. Not always, but we hope. And I hope it's not true, because it is pretty infamous. My family said to me, look, it's one thing if the mafia go after you or the Masons go after you, but...
If it's the Vatican.
But yes, and actually a sympathetic cardinal whom I know well, I was talking to him and he said that if that was true, it'd be the most infamous thing of all. but we don't have proof.
What
But
was
there
your-
is evidence,
There is evidence.
but no proof.
Okay. Do you think the faith will come back?
Of course it will. Of course it will. But it won't unless people step up to the plate. We're preaching Christ and his message and his teachings and the communities that believers form. And you've also got to look not just at the headlines and what the anti-religious press say. See what Christ says, read what he says, have a look at the Gospels. He's the person we're following, not the ex-Archbishop of Melbourne or Sydney.